Now at this time, let's introduce the amazing Kristine Schwartz. She is a digital offer and marketing coach, retreat leader, speaker, and the creator of Reinvent Your Strategy program and the Co-Creation Collective Mastermind. She activates female impact-driven brands confidently, connects their niche to the unique digital offers, messaging, and marketing roadmaps in repeatable and profitable ways so they can sell out their offers authentically, all with the foundation of elevating the customer experience and understanding the psychology of the customer journey. Kristine worked her way up the corporate ladder from years of sourcing, marketing, and systems improvement, aligning leadership and implementing millions of dollars in savings for the conglomerate. From a double master's to a corporate layoff, and then the roller coaster of starting a coaching business from scratch, Kristine took her growth mindset and built a path for other female entrepreneurs needing an easier and more fulfilling solution. Kristine is passionate, as we can tell, high energy speaker that is known for telling it how it is. Her story of consistent struggle brings both a relatable tone and offers an inspiration from her clients to bring greater intention, clarity, and alignment to their journey. Kristine, we are thrilled that you are with us today, and we look forward to learning from you.
Thank you so much, Laura. That was amazing. It actually makes me like get a little warm and fuzzy because that doesn't even sound like me. I mean, it does, but I'm honored to be here. I'm so excited to chat with each of you today. From what I have heard from Heather and from Megan, each of you are already successful in your own ways. Powerful women. I love to surround myself with powerful women. So this is going to be awesome. A lot of what I do has to do with building an authentic presence, whether it's on social media, inside of your own brand, networking, inside of your offers. So we're going to talk about that today. Megan asked me if people could do a little bit of Q&A, so certainly feel free to throw that in the chat. Megan, if you have any other ways you want them to interact, let them know. But I want to make sure this is interactive and you're getting your questions answered. So there's a lot to learn. What I would say is if you don't already have a pen and a piece of paper in front of you, please do that. And if you have any distractions, turn them off because I'm telling you, there's a lot packed in here that I work with my clients on every single day that you're probably going to be able to use right after this call. So without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and share my screen as long as I have the screen share power. Let's do this. Let me just make sure I'm in presentation mode. Share. All right. Can everyone see my screen and is it in full screen?
Yes, looks great.
Perfect. All right. Well, welcome everyone. I'm so excited for you to be here. We're going to talk about stopping the scroll. So you know how busy the marketplace is on social media. You know how jam-packed it is to get your message out there. And so that's what we're going to talk about today. Thank you so much, Laura. Again, I'm a digital coach. I also consider myself a Pinterest expert. I love content messaging. And for me personally, what do I love to do? I'm a Minnesota girl. So I love to camp. I love adventure. I love being on the water. I live right on Lake Superior, which means I get a very short summer, but I'm enjoying the dog days right now. When it is winter, that long dang winter we experience up here in the north, 4 hours from Canada, I love eating popcorn. I actually had a big bowl last night, loads of butter. I am not one of those people that'll just sprinkle it on, give me the salt, give me the butter. And then for those of you that know what human design is, I'm a manifesting generator. So I'm super into energy work and just making sure that I feel all the amazing vibes and working inside my own energy. So who is this for? It's basically for anyone that wants to organically market themselves online. That means without paying for ads, right? So this is what we're going to do today. We're going to talk about how to build authority online. We're going to talk about how to capture the attention of your ideal client, how to create content that your clients are going to get excited about. You're going to have a framework on how to create content topics so you don't have to worry about what to post, because I know that typically is what happens with clients. They get overwhelmed. You want to certainly learn how to identify a lead magnet, because we don't own social media. So we're going to talk about how to build a lead magnet so we can start to convert prospects into email subscribers. And then we're going to map out your messaging so you can do this easily on repeat. So the question is, how do you create content that stops their scroll? Think about yourself as a user on social media. You're consistently scrolling on your phone. I mean, you probably get distracted between Instagram and Facebook, and one thing pops up and you realize, I jumped on here to do one thing, and all of a sudden I'm 20 minutes in and I'm like, what am I doing, right? So you have to stop their scroll. You have to have a messaging that's so powerful that stops them in their tracks. So as you're starting to think about content, the one thing that's very important, and I always say to people, if you don't have an objective, don't post at all. What is your goal? What is the action that you want your client to perform, that's your potential client to perform? So if you're going to post on social media, it's great to have inspiring content and educate your customer. We're going to talk about that in a little bit. But what action do you want them to perform? You have to make sure that there's some sort of call to action in some way, shape, or form. And so identify every time I'm going to post, every time I'm going online, every time I'm going on social media, what action do I want my customer to perform? And then ask yourself, are you doing the big three? Are you incorporating this into your strategy consistently? Are you building your personal brand? Each of you as women have a personal brand, whether you know it or not, right? And so what you're doing is you're building authority in your space. That authority has a lot to do with a couple of different factors. So think about it. Am I actually building my brand? And what am I doing to show how I want to be represented? Are you selling? This is also super important. We don't just want to inspire and educate. Are we actually selling? Are we telling them what we do so that they know when they're ready to buy, they can buy from us? Does it solve problems? As you're posting content, some people will get into this space of inspiring. Are we actually educating our customer so that when it's time to buy, they come to us? Are we solving their problem? Do we have to actually know what their problems are? Have we explored their problems? We're going to talk about pain points today, and we're going to go really deep. I'm going to give you some of the stuff I give my clients, and that's really going to help you identify how to build content.
I just want to come in and say something really quick, if you don't mind. I think that it's so important. And we just talked about this actually in our monthly meeting that we had for our committee just yesterday. It's so important for you guys to build your personal brand, especially, and this doesn't mean, rep your company all the time. Listen, there's nothing wrong with that, but we want to make sure that you're building your own personal brand so that no matter where you go, people are going to know who you are and what you stand for at the end of the day. And I think that is more important now than ever with all the scary headlines, all the layoffs that we're seeing. It's so important that you protect yourself and build that personal brand. So I absolutely love, Kristine, that you brought that up.
Yes, you bet. Absolutely. We're going to dig into that a little bit further here too. So the first piece that I want to talk about today is how to stand out and build authority online. So how do you amplify your brand on social? You have to become more of who you are. So a lot of times we think we have to be something that we're not, and that's just not true. People want to see our quirkiness. They want to see our personality. You have to align to your core values and who you actually are, because it's fully transparent. It's kind of like when you're talking to someone and they don't want to be where they are, and their energy is just like right in front of you. And you're like, I know you don't want to be here. Like, you don't even have to say that out loud because I can tell from your energy. You should just go home. But it's that same example. Like, we have to align to our core and understand, what are the values that I hold? What are the beliefs that are really important to me? I think a lot of times we get scared that we're going to get judged when we are our true selves online. A lot of us, myself included, I am a very private person. My husband does not want me sharing anything about him on social media. And so we have to draw that line. But that doesn't mean that you can't be transparent on what you stand for. What are your hobbies? What do you show your brand personality, right? Connect to people through stories and what's going on in your life. When we think about social media, it's meant to be social, which means you're sharing your social life, right? This is your magic. This is what really brings people in and builds trust with you. They resonate with you because they have things in common, but unless you're posting those things, they don't even know what you have in common, right? So ask yourself a couple of questions, and these are some really great takeaways to write down right now. What do you want to be known for? Going back to Megan's point, identify what do you want to be known for, so that if you were to jump companies, if you were to go to a different space, what are you an expert in? What is that? Ask yourself. And if you haven't done this exercise of taking a step aside from where you are right now, what is that big vision? A lot of times we don't even give ourselves in this fast-paced world enough space to figure out, where do I want to be in a year? Where do I want to be in 2 or 3 years? What is my big vision? Right? And how is that coming across on my social platforms? One thing that we absolutely want to make sure we understand about ourselves, we have enough self-awareness to see what makes us different. Especially if there's multiple people in this room that are in the same industry, you have to identify what your special sauce is. What makes you different? And that may just be your personality and who you are. It might be your programs and your offerings. What is your unfair advantage? What are the things that you grew up with, your experiences that no one else could ever copy? Because you have to think, if there's a mortgage lender over here and there's a mortgage lender over there, the only thing that defines their difference isn't their title and what they sell, it's them as a person. And so you have to understand, well, I bring 20 years of customer relations or experience, right? Customer experience to the table. Maybe you worked in retail. Maybe you grew up in a space where you didn't have food on the table every day. So you appreciate a good meal. You appreciate the dollar, the value of a dollar, right? So like, understand, what is my unfair advantage? What makes me different? What has built my personality and built me the way I am? And use that so that people can relate to you. Are you relatable to your customer? From the time of cavemen, they passed, even before language was a thing, they passed down stories through writing on walls. And what does that tell us today? Stories are a way to captivate emotion. You may be in an industry that does not feel very sexy, right? Sometimes it doesn't feel very sexy. So in order to make it sexy, we have to tell stories about customers. We have to tell stories about ourselves. We have to bring the emotion into it. The way to connect to your customer through branding is creating stories. And you have to remember, people buy from people that they trust. So what does that mean? In order to trust you, you have to build that relationship with them. You have to show more than just what you sell. You also have to show a lifestyle. So when you hear stories on Instagram, what does that mean? It's literally the story of your day. And we're going to talk about that in a second, but you have to continue to think about it like, I'm not just posting educational content or selling my things. I'm actually posting my favorite coffee, or, hey, by the way, have you tried this San Pellegrino? It's one of my favorites. Like, everyone's going to be like, yes, oh my gosh, I love that. Have you tried this flavor? It sounds so stupid, but people can relate to that, right? So it's all about becoming more of who you are, aligning to your core values, and understanding what makes you different. So what we're going to do today is we're actually going to get more clarity in our content pillars. We're going to jump into that in a second, but I want you to think about building brand authority. There's lots of different ways to do this. You can borrow authority from other people in the industry. Maybe it's like when you look at a particular market or a particular blog, you can borrow authority by posting other people's content. However, you can also build your own brand authority by educating, by teaching, by telling people what they need to consider or think about. You can use inspirational content so that you're building this, oh, I want to be like her. I want to have what she has. I want to be like her customer, right? You can show them inspiring content or stories that gets them excited and motivated. Creating value. Everything that you're posting, you want to be able to create value. When someone's following you, they're taking time out of their day to monitor what you have going on because they see that it's important. So show them what's valuable. Right? Teach them lessons, show them examples. And then the last piece in this is show your portfolio. So is there visuals? And even if you're not in a sexy industry, I don't know where everyone's coming from right now, but there are visuals, whether it's you working with a customer or a client or software, or it's like you interacting, like there's lots of different ways to capture visuals. So social media, especially Instagram today, is very visual. How do you translate what you do into visuals? Keep that in mind, okay? So why do some posts fail and go nowhere? Well, It all comes down to messaging. Really, when it comes down to it, you have 2 seconds to capture their attention. You know, when you're scrolling on social media, think about your own behavior. How you communicate the value of your content is essential. And so you have 2 seconds to capture their attention. Your prospects are very busy. Pinterest is distracting. Facebook is distracting. Instagram is distracting. Every single time they're on it, we talked about it earlier, they're getting pulled in multiple directions. They have a million, I can't even remember how many messages flash in front of us, but it's millions of messages flash in front of us every single day. And so it needs to interrupt their scroll. And you guys might knock me for this, but people are selfish. They pay attention to their own problems. It's not because they mean to, it's our reticular activation system. It's our brain's way of filtering everything that we see every single day. Your customer is searching for something specific. When you think about your industry, they're suffering from a particular pain point, a particular problem. And so you have to cut through the noise. Our brains filter what's important to us. We see more of what we want when we deem it important. I'll give you an example. A few years back, I was like, I'm going to buy a 4Runner. I really want one. This is what I really want. I'm going to get a 4Runner. So what do? I go out and buy a 4Runner. It's black. It's got leather. I think I'm super cool. And then all of a sudden I'm like, oh my gosh, they're everywhere. Everyone is a 4Runner. Everywhere I look, there's a 4Runner. I see them everywhere. And that's because my reticular activation system is looking at 4Runners everywhere. I'm trying to solve my own problem. And so I'm seeing what everyone in the market has. And I'm just comparing myself. And like, that's the problem that I have to fix right now. So that's what I'm focused on. And I kind of block out the Ford Explorer. I block out, right, all the other vehicles because this is what I care about. So you need to be so laser focused on the keywords that drive engagement from your audience. Because this is what they're typing into Google. This is what they're typing into hashtags. This is what they're typing into the different places that they're visiting to get the answers that they need. Is this all kind of landing here? Is it making sense? Good. Okay, so how do we get them to click on your content? We are going to walk through these exercises. So know your content pillars, identify your pain points. We're going to get clear on your keywords. We're going to identify a sense of urgency, and then ultimately show them the value, okay? So this is an exercise, and actually I have a link, I gave it to Megan. You can download this full-blown worksheet as well as pain points after this, but we're gonna identify 3 to 5 themes of content buckets that are important to your business. So if you think about your business as the building, you have 4 massive cement pillars, right, that hold up this building. Those are the foundation of this building. If they weren't there, everything would fall down. And so when you think about your content pillars, these are what supports your building. These are those foundational blocks, 3 to 5, right? And then from there, of course, we have other things to talk about. We have all these supporting topics, and those might be the things in between those content pillars that bring things together. But what we really want to identify are these big content pillars that our business is based on. So an example, I'm going to go through a couple of different examples. Let's say I have a diabetes health coach on, right? What's important to them? What are they going to talk about all the time? Well, diabetes, they're probably going to talk about insulin sensitivity. That's a really big deal. Maybe they're also talking about mindful approaches to diabetes management. Maybe that's something that they sell, right? And because they sell it, it becomes a content pillar. Maybe they talk about exercise for diabetics, and maybe the other one might be nutrition. So you can see, like, it's not a very difficult concept to identify what these content pillars might be for your business. But you have to figure out, what are these things that I should be talking about on a consistent basis? And yes, there's going to be a lot of subtopics, but what's your brand all about? If you didn't have these, you wouldn't have a brand, is the example I'm going to give you. So here's another example. A wedding photographer and videographer. Their content pillars is obviously photography and videography. That would make so much sense, right? Maybe they also coach photographers. That's another source of monetary income, the way they make money. Maybe what they love to talk about with their customer is how they make spaces and moments magical. And that's really important to their brand. That is the essence, their special sauce. So you can think about it in a couple of different ways. What are your content pillars? What defines your difference? Okay, there's one more. I have a greeting card distributor, and for them, it's very interesting. making the in-between moments memorable. That's what defines their difference. They're not about just the regular thank you cards. They're the in-between moments. Maybe theirs is giving you the words when you don't have them, right? It's all about these long, this long format versus these quick little cards. And obviously holidays, birthdays, and special moments are something that they talk about a lot. And why are content pillars important? Because they give us a framework on how to build our content. Okay, couple of things to identify as you're building. Once you've built your content pillars, now we have to identify as we're posting content, what are we selling? So if you're in the mortgage industry, you're selling something that's high ticket, right? You're selling something that needs a lot of trust. Not everyone's in the mortgage industry, but we know that there's a lot of people that are in this space. So I'm going to bucket it like high ticket, mid ticket, and low ticket, no matter what industry you're in. What I want you to think about is, what action are you wanting? Remember at the very beginning of this, I said, what's our goal for the customer? Are we wanting to get them to convert by posting on social media? Is that going to happen from a post? Are we wanting to get them to engage? What is our call to action? Are we asking them to engage with our post, to comment on our post, to share our post? What are we trying to get them to do? Are you looking for a new follower? Identifying what the goal is as you're building your content is very, very important, because it's obviously how you're going to build your messaging, right? And like I said, you have to capture them through your messaging. So a couple of things we're going to go through. This exercise is really going to help you identify what your client is working with right now. What is it that in their reticular activation system that we have to be able to target? So we're going to go through these 4 exercises. What does your client want, but they don't have? What is a result that your client wants, but doesn't have? What do they have, but don't want? What is an external, tangible, visible pain point that they have? And what is an internal, fear-based, emotion-based, intangible pain point that they have? By getting really clear on each of these, you're going to be able to create content consistently. So the first one we're going to go through, the problem that they have but don't want, or a result that they want but don't have. Okay. So here's some examples that I want you to look at. These aren't necessarily correlated to one another, but I want you to take a look at this. This might be the customer, right? So what is a result what is something that they have but they don't want? Maybe this customer, they have an accounting system loaded with receipts that need to be reconciled. Maybe they have an extra 15 pounds of weight gain and they're consistently gaining weight. And of course, that's something that they don't want. Maybe they have anxiety when they're jumping on video, or they feel stressed out or in transition and not knowing how to get back on track. Maybe they have posts that don't get the engagement that they want. Maybe an example might be from a mortgage standpoint, they don't even know where to start, right? They want to buy a new house, but they have no idea where to start. They feel lost. They feel overwhelmed. I'm going to open up the chat. I see a couple of things going on in here. I don't know. There's a couple of links. Okay. What is something that they want but don't have? These aren't necessarily correlated to one another. What is a result that they want? Well, maybe they want a calendar booked with prospects. That photographer we talked about, maybe they want to learn how to shoot a wedding and sell packages with ease. Or somebody might want a partner in life that they can have fun with, or time-saving healthy cooking skills, or a home that they're proud of and can entertain in. It's truly identifying who is your target customer. Now, you might have 2 target customers, right? You might have, this is the customer that is making a purchase with me. And then there might be another customer that's a referral partner, right? So you might have multiple customers. You can do this exercise for both, so that you can identify, how am I going to speak to each customer? Is this all landing? If you have any questions, throw them in the chat. I will open up the chat for a second. New house, but don't have money for a down payment. Exactly. Maybe it's not even a new house. They don't even know what they want, right? But they want to get the heck out of where they are. There's so many different examples that we can go here. And like, based on what you sell, it might be very vastly different from someone else in your industry. So it's very important for you to define your difference and what you sell and what makes you different and who your target customer is. Even if it's age or demographic or, education, all of these things, they all play a part into what that customer might want. It's going to be very different from one to the next. Okay. So now what I want you to do is think about one of those problems. So the example that someone put in the chat here was that a new house, but don't have money for a down payment, right? Take your key pain point and identify what are then the internal and external problems that this customer is having. So externally, we're going to use the example of the photographer here, but you can also take that example. We'll maybe run through a couple of like off the cuff based on that example that was in the chat. So externally, that photographer might not be sure on lighting and timing during the day to capture a perfect photo. Maybe they're unclear on how to pose clients so that the images come out perfect, or they're unsure on how to edit images. Maybe they lack the knowledge on how to price their wedding packages. Well, each of these external problems relates to an internal worry or feeling, right? It creates this issue inside of them. And so we might not market in this way, but we have to empathize and understand our customer and what they're going through. And so by feeling stressed out every time they go to a shoot, obviously, if they don't know how to capture that perfect photo, they're going to feel stressed out. If they have lack of confidence when building their packages, so they just give up, or maybe they get frustrated every time they go to edit the photo, so it takes days rather than hours. Maybe they don't even know what they're doing and they feel like a fraud, right? If we went back to the chat and we use this as an example, so if they want a new house but don't have money for a down payment, right? If they don't have the money for the down payment, well, they probably want to give up. They probably don't know where to turn. And because they don't know where to turn, how does that make them feel? Maybe they feel lost. Maybe they feel confused. Maybe they feel overwhelmed with their options, right? So by building this content and identifying what your customer is going through, we can now talk to them on social media. We can build captivating captions, anything that's going to stop their scroll, right? When we're doing a live video, anything. These are the types of things that are going to stop people in their tracks because like, oh my gosh, she read my mind. She knows exactly what I'm thinking, right? Okay. I'm going to keep going here. So, So we're going to take one key problem and create a post, right? Focusing on what you can provide insight and value around. You want to stick to what you know, okay? Because people need to know that I can solve that problem, right? So a couple of things to consider. When we were talking about high ticket, mid ticket, and low ticket, there are different strategies on posting. Personally, it will vary a little bit by industry, but I want you to know high level that high ticket is an emotional buy. It is not something that happens overnight. It requires trust and captivating their heartstrings. So going back to the stories that we talked about, that is a really great way to start captivating your client if it's a high ticket purchase, okay? Mid-ticket is more education based. Now you're going to have different types of customers. I think about it like different types of readers. You have the person that'll go to a blog or read a book and they're going to browse the whole thing, right? You have that person that's going to read it from literally the cover to the end of the book. And then you have that person that is just going to skip, right? Maybe they go all the way to the end. I was that person when I was writing papers in college. I was the person that skipped to the end. But anyways, the whole point is you have different types of readers. You have different types of buyers. You have people that need to see every single fact, right? They need to read the fine print. And then you have people that want to feel emotionally connected to you. They want to trust you. And so you have to think about your offers in the same way. Your mid-ticket might be more education-based, incorporating stories and experience and documenting, right? Behind the scenes, maybe you have to be a little bit more vulnerable. Share your insecurities too, or what you went through. And your low ticket, right? This is a quick win. This is features and benefits. This is more about educating, making them problem aware, understanding that this is my problem, I can fix it, and this is how I'm going to fix it. It's educational content. Features and benefits. So the perfect combo, right? When we're creating content, we want to drill into a pain point. We want them to sign up and work with us in some way, shape, or form. The best way to do that is to get them to become an email subscriber. Or a follower. But in this case, I want their email address because I don't own social media. So I want to talk to them on a consistent basis. So whenever something's fluctuating, I can talk to them. Whenever I'm having a special, I can talk to them. Whenever I'm doing something, I can speak to my client. So the example I'll give you is for this photographer that we were talking about, their pain point is that they're unsure on lighting and daylight timing, that external issue we talked about. So the message that this individual might put out there is like, nail your lighting, 10 need to know tips for wedding photographers. If we go back to that example of the messaging for the lead magnet or something that you would want to create, a lead magnet, just to clarify, it's something of value that you're going to give to your customer in exchange for their email address. So you're creating an opt-in, a lead magnet. You probably all have subscribed to something at some time or another, given your email address to someone, but you want to make sure that if you're giving them your email address, that you're getting something of value from them. So that being said, in this situation, if they don't have money for a down payment, 10 different ways to find money for a down payment on a new house. Man, that sounds brilliant for someone that doesn't have the money right now, right? That could be something that's linked inside of your bio on your Instagram, that could be on your Facebook, that could be on your Pinterest, on your YouTube, wherever you are, wherever you want to be on your website, they can grab something like that. So that's an example of a message that you might want to speak to. So the message here is nail your lighting, 10 need to know tips for wedding photographers. And then maybe what they're giving is a free lighting guide for every wedding. So they created a post and then they said, hey, grab my free guide. It's right there. It's easy, no problem. Now all of a sudden they got new email subscribers, right? Okay, so that being said, let's jump into content. When you're creating content, as we start to look at Facebook or Instagram, there's a couple of main pieces that you always want to have. So you have your image, you have your headline, you want to make sure you have an attention grabber, you have your description, your story and context, and then your call to action, CTA. You always have to have a call to action. If there's one takeaway that you take from today, it's that you need a call to action. You have to tell the user what to do. You have to understand how you want the user to interact with you. So examples, and a headline. If I only knew these lighting secrets when I started shooting weddings, and then they tell a story about when they first started shooting weddings, right? When I think about a story, it's the problem that they saw, how they overcame it, and the result that they found. It's just like any story you read, right? And so from there, the call to action is, there's a few key hacks I want to share with you. Just download my Nail Your Lighting Guide, 10 Need to Know Tips, so that your wedding shots can come out perfect. So this is just a really great example of how do I create a post that feels authentic and also grabs their attention right from the start, captivates them with emotion, and then builds in a CTA that makes sense. So when it comes to headlines, make your title specific. No high-level concepts or ideas. So an example here, whether it's on a reel headline, like you're creating reels, and we're going to talk about reels in a second. Don't get freaked out if you don't know how to do them. We're going to talk about them. But at the very top of your feed, right? Like you are always going to see like the first headline that's associated to a feed post or associated to a video or associated to a reel. That needs to be attention grabbing. So you're going to use specific keywords that your customer is thinking about because that's their problem. Maybe you're going to polarize. You're going to say something that's like, I can't believe she just said that. I have to read what she just said. Maybe you're shocking and awing them, right? Maybe you're asking a question. One thing we know about questions is that our brains tell us I have to answer that question, whether I'm going to respond to them on here or not. We psychologically can't help it. It's just embedded in us. So we want to answer that question. So it's always great to lead in with a question. Curiosity. So when we have a subject line that builds curiosity, did you know? Have you heard? Right? Those are the types of things that are going to get them to click. Here's another one. So when we think about descriptions, going back to your personality. Now, I personally feel that you don't need to use your proper English in every single thing that you're writing. I'm going to go back to forgetting high school English because that's not how we as humans talk. We actually don't speak that way. We speak in I write how I talk when I go onto Instagram. And that's because if I'm talking like that, I sound very rigid. I don't sound like someone that resonates with you because I don't sound like a human. I sound like an English paper. Nobody wants to read an English paper. Not that I didn't ace it. I was good in English, you guys, but I don't want to have English in everything that I do be so proper. I want to relate to someone that gets me, right? And so removing some of that copy that points inward. So I, me, we, us. Replace it with you. Talk to your customer. You might be feeling this way. Have you ever done this? Have you ever thought of, right? Tell them a story, right? And inside of that headline, maybe it's the problem that you saw, the solution that you found, and what ended up happening. What was that result? So there's lots of different ways to identify this description and go really deep into it. But I want to make sure that you understand that we don't have to be so clean cut and dry on social media. We want to relate to people. Okay. Call to action. Here's my favorite. CTA. Tell the reader what to do. Tell the reader what to do. If you're creating something on social media and you're doing like a feed post or a carousel, and that might be something where you're swiping through, you could create something that looks like a button. It's going to tell the reader what to do. When we see buttons, we want to click them. It's like a 2-year-old. Every time I see a button, I want to touch it. It's the same thing for adults. We just don't actually touch it. So the whole idea is make it specific and have a hard ask. Sometimes people really want to be told what to do. We need direction. Give them a sense of urgency. Tell them why they have to buy right now. Tell them why it's important right now. You guys are having a lot of market fluctuation right now, right? And so inside of the market, yes, it is. I'm sure rates have gone up, but guess what? They might be going up more. Who knows? Who knows where you're at right now? So if it's something that you want, this is something, you only have one life to live. Make the decision now. Don't wait. So it's like, give them that sense of urgency. Tell them why. Relate it back to a story of someone who did wait and what it cost them. Get clear on what that hard ask is and make sure that you're telling them inside of your captions. And you can also tell them inside of, whether it's on Pinterest, on your pin, or it's on YouTube, or it's on your Instagram post, wherever it is, you can give them a call to action. Keywords. Get specific with the keywords your customers are searching. So we talked a little bit about this before, going back to the headlines, inside descriptions, wherever you're posting, make sure you're thinking about what would my customer type into YouTube or Google or Pinterest if they have a question. When you think about these pain points, I'm probably not going to use my normal tech speak. That customer doesn't understand my tech speak. They don't understand all the lingo in this particular industry. What they understand is what their problem is. So break down what you normally call something that your customer wouldn't understand. Maybe you have to explain it to them when you're face to face. Break that down into simpler context so that you can create keywords and truly make sure that whatever you're putting on your website, whatever you're putting into social media postings or your blogs, that it makes sense in their journey. They're typing that into Google, right? They understand what you're saying, and it's simple enough so that they feel smart, because we want to make the customer feel smart. We don't want them to feel dumb. We want them to know that we are relatable. We will explain it to them. So some of the keywords, this goes back to the wedding photographer example. I just listed a bunch of keywords, and I highly recommend after this presentation, you take even 5 minutes to write down some of these keywords associated to your content pillars. Because these are the things, whether you have someone to delegate to or you're doing it yourself, you can come back to and use consistently over and over and over again. And keep it in a bank. You can keep it in a Google Doc. You can throw it into Trello. You can throw it into a project management software, whatever you're using, to grab it at a different time. Okay, I'm going to touch a little bit on feeds, reels, stories, and highlights. So, reels, what are they for? Reels are to reach a new audience. Okay, I want to know in the chat, who's using Reels right now? How many people? Just say me. Just say me. And if you don't know, if you haven't used them, you can say, I'm not using them, but I want to know. Tell me in the chat. I see, let me see here. I'm looking. Yes, says Megan. Not yet, says Amy. No clue, says Heather. Starting. Okay. So we have a nice little mix. Not yet. Okay. So here's what you need to think about. Reels are for visibility. They're to reach new eyeballs. Your feed post is for current people. Your stories are for current people. Your highlights should be there. Your highlights, we'll talk about all these in a second, there for those new eyeballs to go to right away. Okay. So your reels are to reach new audience. You're building brand awareness. They're great for visibility. These are short, little mini quick clips. You've heard about the trending audio, I'm sure, right? You can go in, you can save trending audio based on what other people are posting. And typically on Reels, they're 15 seconds to 30-second videos. You can now go up to 60 seconds. But what I will say is the shorter, the sweeter, the better, because we have a limited attention span, don't we, as humans? So we want things that are quick, easy, and to the point. Reels make marketing for interior designers. Sorry, I was talking to interior designers the other day. But interior designers easier because you can showcase a video or footage that you already have. Now, what I would say here is, this is a really great way for your industry to create a visual. Because if you're not feeling like it's sexy enough, what you can do is in a short, quick snippet, you could they're literally 2-second chunk videos. And it could just be of you saying one thing and then saying another thing. Like, it doesn't have to be so difficult. I think a lot of times what we do is we work these things up in our mind and they become overwhelming. And then we don't do them at all. And what I want you to know is they're just mini, short, quick videos. Start with educating your customer. Start with looking at your content pillars, identifying their pain points, taking one of those things and creating a quick little reel. It could be 5 seconds and you're just telling them something. And that's going to be really, really helpful for your customer. So your feed, posting to your feed will reach your current audience. Okay. Think of it like your portfolio. Clients should get a taste of what you do. And I'm going to show you a couple of them inside of financial industries in a second here. So here is an example. I just typed in mortgage because I knew there would be some people in mortgages, right? This girl, it's great. The mortgage nerd, she calls herself, right? And so see how she's building a personal brand here? She has a podcast. She's doing nerd talk. She's wearing a nerd hat. Simple, short, to the point. Her reel says, will you be house broke? Are you going to be house broke? We hear it all the time. You buy a brand new car and what ends up happening? Like you're paying for your car. You don't get to live your life. Same thing happens with houses. So think about your feed as anyone that comes to my space is seeing my portfolio of information. So you want to make sure if you pin anything to the top or whatever you're posting on your feed gives a really nice taste of what you do. Okay. Stories. Stories are lighter content. Remember how I said they're like showing off your day? And truly what they're here for is to show off your personality, your interests, your design, details you come across spontaneously that you want to share. Maybe it's, market, the news, things like that, that really relate to your industry, educating the consumer, keep making sure that like they're abreast of what's going on, especially in this volatile space of where like some people don't want to watch the news anymore, guys. Let's be realistic. They are blocking that stuff out because it feels very negative. They want inspirational people, positive people in their lives that are giving them what they need. And so be that light, be that source of information, be that if you don't know what to post, borrow authority from someone that's doing it already, right? Stories are a great way to highlight, hey, did you know, have you thought of, guess what happened today? I know yesterday was primaries in Minnesota. I voted. Like people want to know oh shoot, I forgot. I should probably go vote today. You know, things like that. Or have you considered, have you thought of, here's my favorite coffee. Don't forget to pick up my Pellegrino. All of the things, build a story. Behind the scenes content is really fun, right? You could showcase a client from start to finish, right? Starting to work with them. Maybe it's a quick little email, what they needed help with. Then all of a sudden them in your office, there's a quick picture. And then all of a sudden they have a new house and this beautiful new house. Like there's lots of different ways to paint the picture of the behind the scenes, showcasing your portfolio, selling a particular offer, client testimonials, and social proof are amazing, right? These are beautiful things to use and have a bank of them. If you don't already have a repository, and when I say repository, it could be a Google folder. It does not need to be crazy, you guys. Create a space that you can go to and easily grab things to post content. because what you're eventually going to want to do is recycle your content. You don't want to keep reinventing the wheel every single day. You want to make sure you have a bank of content that you can pull from consistently when you're talking about the different types of content pillars over and over again, right? So client testimonials are a great thing to hold there. Any type of behind the scenes content. When you think about your content pillars, that's how you could bucket your content if you were saving everything in a particular space. Trello is a free platform. If you don't have one of these, like a project management software, it also has an app. You can easily copy and paste even hashtags from them, right? You create these boards and you can copy paste and then throw it onto your stories at the same time. So figure out a system that works for you. Everyone's a little bit different, but make sure that you have a space where you can save these things so you're not working harder, you're working smarter. So here's some examples. The girl on the left, she is a financial coach. And so she is talking about if you're feeling this way, but you want to feel that way. Remember how we said this is something that what is something they want but don't have? What is something that they have but don't want? This is a have but don't want. And want but don't have, right? So we're looking at the exact same thing. It's just she literally put it in a story and identified what they're looking for. This is content at its finest. She put it into a story and then she starts talking about a masterclass that she's going to be putting out there. So just think about it like this. Your content that you're creating, and by going through this process in these worksheets and spending time, is actually going to be something you can repeat over and over and over again. Okay. You can use stories for polls, for market research. You can get higher engagement on these just by using some of those stickers and opportunities inside your stories. Let me know in the chat. Is anyone using stories right now? And if you have any questions, this would be a time to throw your questions in the chat on stories as well. My favorite. Okay. Good job, Megan. Yes. Okay, great. Lovely, lovely. All right, so selling on stories. Couple of different things here. You could take a screenshot. Boost the why. Why do they need your offer? Why is it important to them? Proof. Who's had success with your offer? Remember I told you about social proof. Why should they work with you? Build anticipation. Get excited about what's to come. What's something that's happening in your industry? What should they be excited about? I'll give you an example, and it sounds really silly, and it's probably not the same, but like cryptocurrency, I started getting into it the other day. Well, for the last couple of months. And Ethereum's having this big merger coming up, which is a type of cryptocurrency. And it sounds so silly, but it's something to talk about, right? Like these are things that people don't really know. And so even though it sounds really drab and not exciting to your average human, make it sound exciting and sexy, right? Make it sound exciting. Community, make them feel a part of something. Show them your community. Build that trust through community. Tell a story, pull at the heartstrings. So we talked about this again, the struggle, how they overcame it, and the result that you saw. Highlights. We talked a little bit about this. This is my friend Lisa. She is a financial coach. And so for her, on our highlights, she features different programs that she has, as well as different wins. So this is client testimonials. She also is super into energy work. So she put rituals on there. She put features on there. Maybe you have a behind the scenes on there. This is a space where people go to see what's important to you. So think about your content pillars on your highlights. Are you framing out what you do so people know what you do on your highlights? All right, so highlights make your stories live longer. You can take your stories and bring them into your highlights. You can promote a story to become part of a highlight, which are curated collections of Instagram stories. They're available at all times on your profile, so they live for longer, and they serve as a great opportunity to build a narrative around specific projects, inspiration, or any themed content you want to showcase. Showcase your brand content pillars, okay? So visualize what's already in the mind's eye of the customer. We talked about their pain points. We talked about your content pillars. Many people know exactly what they're looking for. They have these ideas in their mind. They just need to be told what to do with them. So they're looking for things to suffice their vision. Here's an example. How much do you need to invest each month to retire with $2 million at 65? Very, very simple monthly investment, looking at what you're investing, but the average consumer doesn't see that every day. And so it feels really hard when you take $2 million, break it down into something simple. What is in your customer's mind's eye? How do we make it really simple for them to digest and understand? If you're having a hard time posting, I want you to use this framework. I'm going to bring you back to grade school. I feel like that's the theme of the day. So we know when we're writing, we want to make sure that we're talking about why is it important? What is important? Where is it important? When is it important? Who is it important for? And how are they going to do X, Y, and Z? So it seems really silly, but literally write it on a post-it note. Why is this important? Who is it important for? Make sure when you're writing your captions, when you're talking to people, if you're doing a live script, this is what you need to focus on. So you're checking off the boxes and covering all the bases. Okay. Another way to build content, if you don't know how, and you already have a client base, take the FAQs that they have that you get all the time and make a running list. Keep a Google spreadsheet or a Word doc. Literally write down from now, over the next week, the 7 days, write down every question your customer has. Because if one customer has it, somebody else has it. That is content for social media. Think of the different angles of how to answer that question. Use content generation across channels. This isn't something that you just do on Instagram. You can repurpose your content across multiple channels. Okay, so as you're thinking about what you're creating and how you're going to capture that customer, you always want to have that CTA. So as you're thinking about these lead magnets and how you're going to bring them in, getting them to like and you view your content's one thing, but you want to bring them into your space. And that's what lead magnets are all about. So as you start to think about your lead magnets, correlate to your topic. So whatever it is you're talking about, whether it's on Pinterest or Instagram or Facebook, correlate it to your topic. Make it the most obvious next step. You could summarize what you're talking about in your post. Then you might want to have a direct link to a landing page. So some people have Linktree accounts, or they'll send them direct to their website to download this thing. Maybe it's something that's in an easier format. And you might even want that to look visually similar. So if they're looking at your page, it has the same title, it has the same colors. When they go to this landing page, it has the same everything. Some examples, we talked a little bit about this earlier. Some examples are a how-to guide, an assessment, a tracker, a workbook, a discount, a mini course, a checklist, a roadmap, an email challenge, a quiz, or a template. You could do this by having a pop-up on your site. You could have a landing page. You could have a banner at the top of your site. And you don't need to create a lot of these, guys. You can just have one that makes sense for your brand. Okay? And it might be something that inside of your blog post that falls in between your blog, right? So it's something that's inconspicuous that doesn't just flash at them. There's lots of different ways to do it. The example I'll give you is the content that I had on Pinterest, for example. I directed them over to my website, and this is what was inside of my blog post. So it was the same content that I talked about. It looked a little bit different. This is an example of the post that I made on Instagram and then the landing page that I sent them to. This particular post, and this lead magnet, this is why they're so powerful, has gotten me 1 to 2 subscribers per day for the last year and a half. So when you create a really good lead magnet, they can work for you in very powerful ways. I think it's something that if you don't have on your calendar for Q3, Q4, you should definitely look at that. What's your special sauce? How can you define your difference? How can you bring more people into your brand? We were talking about reusing your content across channels. Think about hero content. So if Instagram's your jam, great. What are you creating on Instagram? How are you then dispersing it throughout? Maybe you create a blog post once a month. That blog post turns into a YouTube. Maybe it turns into a Pinterest post. And then from there, it gets dispersed into your Facebook, and then it gets dispersed into your Instagram. There's lots of different ways to do this, but think of it from a hero content perspective. I create one thing because I only have time for one thing, and then it gets dispersed across my channels. Make sure that you're working smarter, not harder. Okay. All right. So can we talk about an example of a lead magnet in the mortgage industry? So we talked about this a little bit earlier, but a lead magnet example might be 10 ways, right? 10 ways that you can get a down payment for a house if you don't have the money, right? If you were thinking about a lead magnet and you wanted to, depends on your target customer, but maybe they're looking at remodeling a home. right? Maybe they're looking at a loan to remodel. So give them those tips or recommendations on how to go about this process, or how do they take that first step, right? Make it that big
Another
thing
one.
easier for them.
Another one that, I just thought of, it's a little bit different now because things have started to slow down a little bit, but there was a time period, and depending upon your market, it still may be this way right now. We don't have a lot of inventory, so things are very competitive. So a lead magnet might be, 5 ways to get your offer accepted, or, just think about the pain point that they're having and how can you attach it in a way that's going to, provide value and get them to watch the rest of the video or whatever the case may be.
Exactly. And that to that point, I have used lead magnets as videos. So whether it's a 3-part video series, something like that, it doesn't always have to be a list or a PDF or something that they download. It could actually be a video that they watch. Okay, so your content, just so you know, is the start of nurturing your client relationship. You probably already know this, but only 2% of people that you're talking to are actually ready to buy. And so not everyone is ready to buy right now. What does that mean? It honestly means that most people are only aware of the pain that they feel right now. And so they may not have the money to buy a new home, but they want to. That's the pain that they're feeling. That's important to them. So you have to identify, how do I get them to a solution, right? It's your job to take them from the emotion of the pain that they're in, because they're in pain, right? Whether it's you or somebody else that solves it, you get to decide. Excuse me. You have to bring them from the awareness of their problem to a solution so that they can ultimately see and trust you, that you are the person to help them. So most people, when they see your posts on Instagram, when they see you on Facebook, they're pain aware. They know they have a problem, or you're showing them that they have a problem, right? Now they become solution aware. Now that could be an example, like they saw that mortgage interest rates went up, and you're like, this is what you need to do right now in this situation. They became solution aware. Now they all of a sudden are like, okay, I know, like, and trust her. If I'm going to move forward, I'm going to move forward with her. So they see you on Instagram, on Facebook, wherever it is, they hear you, they digest what you're saying, and it takes some time, and then they eventually take action. This process could take years. And in your space with a higher ticket offer, you probably know that. And so the purpose of your content is to help move that client through a roadmap of seeing you to ready to work with you. Creating content and offers that layer perfectly on top of one another speaks to them in each stage of their journey. And so what you want to make sure you're doing is you're doing the educational content at the same time that you're doing the stories and the high ticket content that we talked about. You want to make sure you're hitting on every angle, because everyone's at a different stage in their buying journey, right? So the winning blueprint, you have to land your messaging, because if they don't see you, they are not going to read anything else. So if you're not capturing their attention right off the bat, you've lost them already. Then all of your captions and everything you're writing doesn't even matter. You have to get their attention right off the bat. So your messaging is number one. Then from there, it's your offer. Making sure that that offer and whatever you're providing, that CTA, makes sense to them, right? You're connecting that pain to the offer, and then ultimately that leads to the sale. So building trust with and connection with your audience consistently. So this is what we talked about today. It was a lot of digesting. I have a content pillars worksheet as well as a pain point worksheet. So you can go through this entire exercise on your own. Megan, if you could throw that link in the chat one more time for them, that might be really easy so you guys can grab it. We talked about how to build your authority. It starts with your personal brand. If you're going to capture their attention, it really comes down to your messaging. We talked about the different types and ways to build your framework of your content. Content pillars is a great place to start. And then ultimately, how to build a lead magnet that makes sense for your business. Something that you don't have to reinvent the wheel every single day. It's something that you build once and it should work. Now, marketing is always a test, so I would say continue to tweak it, but make sure that you're actually moving forward with this thing so you can capture email addresses. And then map out your messaging so that you can do this on repeat. So your action items today. Choose how you're going to build authority. If you haven't stepped into your own personality on social media, how are you going to get yourself there? So, like, what's your first step? Are you going to borrow some content? You're going to start posting? What's your strategy going to be? So let's get clear on how you're going to build authority. Create your content pillars, only 3 to 5. It doesn't have to be crazy. And then from there, what are some relevant pain points that you can leverage for your content as it's related to your offer? So what are some relevant pain points? I'm going to say that one more time, that you can start to use based on your offer. So look at your offer, pain points. How do I bring that into my content, right? And then get clear, what is my big channel? Where's my hero content? Am I blogging? Am I on Instagram? Am I on Facebook? Am I on YouTube? What are you using? And then how are you going to repurpose your content? What lead magnets can you create to supplement that content? And ultimately, how can you determine how you're going to repurpose that content? The last thing I want to say is, based on what you're currently putting out there on Instagram, social media, Facebook, I want you to ask yourself, are you marketing to that high ticket client? Are you only doing education or inspirational content? Are you in each area of this customer journey? And if you're not, identify that gap so that you can solve for it. You can create content and create that bank and put it into a repository that you can reuse over and over and over again. Okay, that's it, guys. That's it. How you can find me. I'm Kristine Schwartz. I am the owner of Reinvent Your Hustle. I'm on Instagram. I'm on Facebook. If you want to show your appreciation and love, follow a small business owner. I would love to see your faces on there. You can also reach me at reinventyourhustle@outlook.com. And lastly, there is that link in the chat. If you want to, I have content pillars as well as pain points that you can download. And it's a full-blown worksheet that we talked about today that'll help you get really, really clear on next steps. If you want to find out more about me, I'm leading a women's trip in Yellowstone in a month. I have 2 spots left. So if any woman wants to come, it's an amazing retreat. Would love to have you. Otherwise, you can find out more about me on my website or my Instagram, and I share it all the time. So thank you so much for having me.
Love it. Thank you guys for tuning in today. And thank you, Kristine. So many amazing things to walk away with. And I really just want you guys to remember, do not forget those call to actions. And when you think about the fact, maybe you're sitting there saying, I don't know what stories I'm going to tell. Listen, dig deep within yourself and use what Kristine said. You have stories. Think about those clients, that first-time home buyer that you helped ultimately get into that house, or that mom that recently got divorced that has kids. You helped her put a roof over her head for her children. Think about these stories. Think about those clients that at the end of the day left you feeling amazing about yourself and reestablished that purpose of why you do what you do. Those are stories that are going to pull at heartstrings. Those are stories that are going to make for some amazing content. And you have it. All of you have it, each inside of yourself. You have it. You just got to pull it out. And with that, thank you. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you, Kristine. And thank you for everyone just being here on this call. Next month, we are going to have a live webinar. Again, it's always the second Wednesday of the month at 2 p.m. And this is going to be about avoiding burnout, which we all desperately sometimes need. So I look forward to seeing you guys then, and have a great day.